It would seem that I need some mothering. About 6 weeks ago, I went and visited a Balinese tarot card reader. She was lovely. Much like the other local healers that I've seen over the years, she was an intriguing mix of no mess, no fuss, run-of-the-mill, everydayness, and deep spiritual mysticism. I recorded my reading because, knowing me, I'd forget most of it. But here's something that really stood out. She told me there was an event that happened in my life when I was about 10 that needed some healing. Something occurred, she said, that caused you to grow up too quickly, too soon. It required you shut down your feeling feminine girl and become a mother. Instantly I knew what she was talking about, and I could see it as though it was yesterday. I hadn't remembered it until she uttered the words. It wasn't a big deal, it wasn't abuse or terror, but it was significant for sure. Standing at the gates of the low wire fence of our brand new primary school. She was right, I was 10. First day of year 5, and I was terrified. A fairly sheltered girl from a country town, now in the city, standing at the edge of a suburban school which was looming in front of me. So much noise and mayhem of the first day swirling around me, I could barely see or hear anything. I had a younger sister's hand in each of mine, and the three of us stood side by side, wide-eyed and paralysed. I don't know if Mum called it out from the car. I'd like to think she was standing right beside or behind us, but it was an off you go and take care of your sisters kind of drop-off and departure. Instantly, I pushed my feelings to the floor, reserving them for a later time, and led the way into the quadrangle, blind leading the blind. Fear coursing through my body, ignored for pragmatism and what needed doing. Anyway, I walked away from that tarot card reading, reminding myself it was time to heal that experience deeply. And then I forgot, of course. Fast forward 6 weeks, and we are 3 weeks into the return of school. My kids were home for 4.5 months. 2.5 of that was homeschooling, and 2 months was summer holidays. And in that time, we've had the pandemic. The whole thing has required a lot of adulting, and in my case, a whole lot of mothering. Mothering in a pretty hardcore sense. Every single aspect of mothering has been embodied by me. Bits of it were good and I did them well, and bits I really could have done better. I guess that most mamas out there would have shared a similar experience. There hasn't been anything cruisy about the last 5 months. Throw into the mix for me the impending uncertainty of our medium-term future, and I realise now as I'm writing and sharing this that I've had to dig deep. Last week I was sent an invitation out of the blue from a friend to join myself up for a week-long online retreat called Mothering the Mother, which was running the very next week. I was hesitant. I always am. It was really short notice, but I looked in my diary, and in terms of Reiki sessions and work, I was relatively free. I looked at the retreat schedule. The times weren't all that friendly for me to be able to join live from where I am, but the promise of a recording available in the closed Facebook group with perfectly timed limitation of a week, so to make sure you use it, gave me hope that I could participate. I muscle tested it, and my body said, yep, so I signed up. Really not sure of the true extent as to why, and really not fully convinced I could fit it all in. I have been craving the trees a lot and for months. The time just has not aligned for me to get there up in the mountains. Finally, tired of waiting, I made it happen on the weekend just past. A mum, a friend and I took our kids out of town and into the hills, and it was beautiful, truly tranquil, freeing and restoring. My view was filled with trees and green. What I desperately wanted, though, was a chance to trek through the jungle, and I didn't get it. I needed it. I knew I did, but it wouldn't be. Instead, we took our kids to a huge water park full of slides, pools, and noise. Not at all like the jungle. On the way down there, I really had to allow the process. The disappointment at my wants and needs not being met, feeling as though I'd not given them a voice, and recognizing that this choice was actually, indeed, the right one for everyone. So what could I do? How could I make this about what I needed to? Ordinarily, I'd be the mum sitting on the sunbed, minding the stuff, people watching, waiting for the kids to come back when they're shouting, "I'm hungry!" and occasionally dipping my legs into the nearest pool to cool off all the reservations. So I thought, this time I could be the mum my kids would really want me to be. the one that follows them around the park at a half run, bouncing from slide to slide, whichever one they choose, throwing myself down sheer drops, rushing with water, watching and cheering, shouting and waving, screaming in terror and laughing hysterically. Nothing reserved, all the feels, all the fun. I did it, and the kids loved it, I could tell. Together we conquered fears and celebrated the courage. We rode the same slide over and over just for the thrill and the drenching at the end. It was magnificent, truly magical, and so simple. As much as I needed the trees, I needed that too. I mothered my kids, and I think I mothered myself a bit also. Flashback, age 10. The very next day was Monday, and in talking with a new friend, she told me about where she'd stayed over the weekend and how easy it was to get to and how big the trees were and how the accommodation had arranged a guide to take them on treks for hours through the jungle. Boom, I've booked in. That day, I thought about what I was going to post. I'd been away from Instagram all weekend. It was time, according to my commitment, to show up on my Reiki account. But I wasn't feeling it. I couldn't muster it. So I decided to leave it and check in again the next day with how I was feeling. I've been needing to detox. My liver is a sluggish liver, always has been. I've done lots over the years to help it and quite a bit to hinder it too. I know that it's ancestral and epigenetic. I've addressed that in the past too, and again very recently, and this ties in with healing my mother line big time. Thank you, Grandma. Anyway, I've put it off, the detoxing, for all the reasons that we do that. Yesterday morning, I woke up early. I'd set my alarm for 4 a.m. to try and make the opening circle of this Mother the Mother retreat, and I bodged it up. So I didn't make the circle, but I did wake earlier than normal and wondered if I'd get out of bed and move or meditate. Then I thought, nah. And I thought, why would I think that? Like, what's going on here? Self-sabotage, shouted the voice that's usually so nice and gentle. Wow, self-sabotage. My ego had convinced me that somehow I wasn't prone to that anymore. Bah, ha, ha, ha. So I got up, and after the chaos of feeding 1 cat, 2 kittens, and a puppy, I made some warm lemon water and sat in the sunroom to steal 10 minutes of quiet before the rest of the morning required my mothering. Then once it did, the awareness was gone, and I was off with my day. At some point during the day, I found the time to sit and watch Sharon tune into the opening circle. It was beautiful, of course, and a wonderful mix of sitting to connect and receive and participating to reflect and contribute. During it, we were taken through a short journaling practice and some prompts were given, and I chose to respond to this one. How can I mother myself more? Here's what I wrote. Self-sabotage came up for me this morning. As a mama, I give my kids suggestions and guidance around what to eat, how much sleep to get, when to exercise, and when to chill. I need to listen to that voice. Right now, I'm eating too much of the food I shouldn't, and I'm drinking too much. I'd like to listen to that voice. Why am I not? Self-sabotage. Then, in the journaling practice, we were asked to switch hands and to write with our non-dominant hand. Why have I never done that before? Here's what I wrote. This is very challenging. It's making me giggle, actually, and I'm really enjoying the feeling. I felt so light and free. It was really fun. It reminded me of Sunday at the water park, my non-dominant behaviour, my not normal choice. Again, I then checked in with posting on Instagram, and it was a no. Perhaps this week, I thought, is for me instead. Perhaps I need a break. My day carried on. I got home with the kids at 5-ish and started on dinner. Things started annoying me. Little things. Noises, animals, the kids, the food, the jobs I still had going on, the commitment I'd made to later that night. I started to shout and be short. What's wrong with you? They asked, and rightly so. According to them, I was in a bad mood. All I felt was irritation and annoyance. It continued through dinner, by which time everybody knew that I was on the warpath, so look out. I think they were relieved when I retreated to my room to fulfill my commitment and leave them to have fun with each other. By the time I went to sleep, I felt calmer. I'd been wondering if I was feeling the full moon, and after a bit of reading, decided that I was. Yesterday, I promised myself that I'd spend today catching up on the 2 retreat sessions I'd missed yesterday. Even though the day was free and I should be hustling and working, I'd give myself the day, the time, for what purpose, I didn't know. Again, I woke early, so I crept downstairs to face the morning feeding mayhem, knowing that I could manage that while the kettle boiled for warm lemon water. I found quiet in the sunroom and tuned in. "This is it," she whispered, her voice restored to her gentle tones. "This is it." The before-school morning routine kicked off and proceeded in its normal fashion. No fuss, done it a million times. Keeping myself to my promise, I dressed in activewear, alluding to the yoga class ahead of me. As soon as I got home from the school run, I sat with my laptop and the breathwork session I'd missed. I haven't done much breathwork before, really, so I was intrigued. Before getting into breathing, we were asked to recognize a negative emotion we didn't want to feel. Well, that was easy. Irritation. Having been so recently in my body and on my tongue, I had no problem recognizing that. Then we were to identify a feeling we'd prefer in its place. Acceptance and calm were mine. The initial practice was a dynamic one, to sigh out for 6 or 7 minutes, and to do this with noise and movement of the body. But of course, as with any good holistic practice and practitioner, we could choose to do it seated and quiet if that suited better. I, with all my tendency for reservation, chose the latter. I participated in the sighing bit with my eyes closed, but when I peeked at the screen and I saw the other mamas flailing their arms around, their heads waving as though they were at some ecstatic dance party or rock concert, and I could only imagine the noises coming out of their mouths. Why aren't I doing it that way? What's holding me back? Why have I chosen to be so reserved? Flashback, age 10. The second practice was box breathing. I've done this before. But this time we were to imagine that the desired feeling was entering with the inhale, expanding through our body with the hold, and we were then projecting it outward with the exhale. It was to be golden light, this feeling. This I participated in fully, with interruptions from animals and life along the way. And the result was a sense of acceptance and calm throughout my body, as I'd hoped. Such a quick salve for the wound of seeming unfounded irritation I'd so recently embodied. I finished the session and turned to my phone. Should I Instagram this? No, not yet. Then I checked my WhatsApps. "The delivery's on its way, babe, and I'll leave you a voice note with instructions on what to eat and when. My dear friend is trialling a detox plan, and I'm one of her testers. Within 30 minutes, I'd been given 2 days' worth of meals and juices. It was only yesterday that I realized I wanted that. Such a rapid reply to my request for a mothering voice. Turns out I need some mothering, my 10-year-old self and my 42-year-old self. And I'm getting it. So I turned to my laptop to type, and there I sat for about 2 hours, ignoring all others and my hungry belly and the crying kitten. I've catharticized this story onto the page, and it's been healing, I think, to do that. To what purpose other than that? I don't know yet. But if this last week has taught me anything, it's that now more than ever, I'm to trust the flow and know that whatever I need is coming to me. I share this here with you in this way with humility and only the highest intentions. That you might know a little more of me, and in that might know a little more of yourself. Let's be free. Let's be light.